Te Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Chapter 3, verse number 1. Arjuno Vacha Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mad Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkim Karmani Gore Mam Niyojayasi Keshava.
Arjuna said, "O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? If you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work."
Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohaya shivame tadekam vada nishitya yena shreyoham apunyam.
My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be more beneficial for me.
Sri Bhagavan Vacha Lokesmin Dvivida Nishta Pura Prokta Maya Naga Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service.
Na karmanam anaramban naishkarmyam purusho snute nacha sanyasanat eva siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection.
Nahi kaschit shanam api jatu tistati akarmakrit karyate haya vasha karma sarva prakrite jair gunai.
Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment.
Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyartan vimuddatma mithyachara sa uchate.
One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender.
Yasve indriyani manasa niyamyarabhate arjuna karmendriyai karma yogam asakta sa vishishyate.
On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the achieved senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior.
Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajaya haya karmanaha sarira yatrapi chate na prasida yat akarmanaha.
Perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work.
Yajnartat karmanon yatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara.
Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage.
Sahayajna praja sristva purovacha prajapati anena prasavisyadvam esovastve istakamaduk.
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yagna," sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation.
Devan bhavaya tanena te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreya param avapshyata.
The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all.
Istan vogan hi vo deva dasyanti yajna bhavitaha tairdatan apradayaibhyo yo bhungte stena eva saha.
In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief.
Yajnasista sino shanto muchante sarva kilbishai bunjate tve agam papa ye pachante atmakaranat.
The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin.
Annad bhavati bhutani parjanyad anna sambhavaha yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajna karma samudbhavaha.
All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties.
Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajne pratistitam.
Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice.
Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayitah yaha agayur indriya ramo mogam partha sajivati.
My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain.
Yastve atma ratir evasyad atma triptascha manavaha atmaneva cha santustas tasya karyan na vidyate.
But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, full satiated, for him there is no duty.
Naiva tasya kritenarto na kriteneha kaschana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschid artha vyapashrayah.
A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being.
Tasmat asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hayacharan karma param apnoti purushaha.
Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty by working without attachment or one attains the Supreme.
Karmanaiva hi samsiddhim astita janakadayah lokasangraham evapi sampasyan kartumarhasi.
Kings such as Janaka attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work.
Yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tat evetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate.
Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues.
Name partasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptum avaktavyam varta eva sakarmani.
O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shyam Prabhu, for very nicely reciting the Sanskrit. And thank you, Devi Mataji.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Hare
Nice
Krishna.
question. So welcome, devotees, to today's chat session. Today we'll continue with chapter number 3. And I hope I'm doing the right verse. I've been so busy with other services, I've lost touch. Did Manu Prabhu do text number 6 yesterday?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so I'm on track with. All right, great. So today we will do text number 7. Before we do so, we'll say the Mangala Charanam prayers together. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasticha Dishatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're continuing with the theme of the Lord instructing Arjuna on the proper way to act. Part of Arjuna's confusion was, what should he do? How should he act? Should he fight? Should he renounce? Should he go to the forest? What should he really do? And Arjuna's dilemma actually represents our consciousness. So in these verses called Karma Yoga, karma means act, action, or activity. The Lord is instructing Arjuna how to act. And these are very instructive verses for us. So text number 7. Yastu indriyani manasa niyam yara bhate jana karmendriye karma yogam asaktasa vishishyate. Word for word, yaha, one who, two, but, indriyani, the senses, manasa, by the mind, niyamya, regulating, arabhate, begins, Arjuna, O Arjuna, karma, indriya, by the active sense organs, karma yogam, devotion, asaktaha, without attachment, saha, he, vishishyate, is by far the better. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior. Purport. Instead of becoming a pseudo-transcendentalist for the sake of wanton living and sense enjoyment, it is far better to remain in one's own business and execute the purpose of life, which is to get free from material bondage and enter into the kingdom of God. The term swa-artha gati, or goal of self-interest, is to reach Vishnu. The whole institution of Varna and Ashrama is designed to help us reach this goal of life. A householder can also reach this designation by regulated service in Krishna consciousness. For self-realization, one can live a controlled life as prescribed in the Shastras and continue carrying out his business without attachment, and in that way make progress. A sincere person who follows this method is far better situated than the false pretender who adopts show bottle spiritualism to cheat the innocent public. A sincere sweeper in the street is far better than the charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. So the verse again, on the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is far superior. So the Lord is giving his opinion. His opinion describing two types of people. The first person who renounces the world, but inside no renunciation has taken place. All the attachments still remain. His renunciation is simply external. And therefore, the Lord calls such a person a pretender. Here, the Lord is saying, but there's another class of person who is much better. This person externally is not renounced. They may be a householder, they may be a working class person, and they seem to be fully engaged in the senses. But such a person internally is controlled by the mind and controlled by executing every action for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, karma yoga. And Krishna is saying, such a person is far superior. Sometimes when we come into spiritual life, much of what we hear is about renunciation. How to become detached from the material and attached to the spiritual. In our spiritual journey, all of us have been through this juncture. And often this juncture, it causes turmoil in our minds. Should I have to give up my family? Do I have to give up my job? Should I have to give up my friends? And how to become renounced. Some people, after going through this dilemma, they choose the path of artificial renunciation. Artificially, they give up their family. Artificially, they quit their jobs. Artificially, they renounce their friends. But inside, internally, they still anchor for their families. They still are unable to stop work. And they are caught, they're trapped, and they become miserable. And often such people become grumpy spiritualists. Their mind is always racing. I'm not sure if any of you ever went through such a dilemma. I know I did. In my very early days in Krishna consciousness, I remember I was a student in university and I met the devotees. And they invited the students to come and live in the ashram for 3 days. And I went. And I stayed with the devotees. And it affected me deeply. I must have been about 19 years old then. And everything about what they said made sense. And I was hearing them speak about Bhagavad Gita. And I had this dilemma. I was studying engineering that time. Should I quit my engineering course? Should I just leave my home and go live in the ashram? And it was causing so much of turmoil in my mind. The thought of just suddenly just abandoning everything was very difficult. It was very difficult. So, that time, I was still so attached, but I was trying to see how I can become detached. So Krishna is advising, and, by some good advice, you don't have to renounce. What we have to do is not renounce an activity, but what is really needed is to change our consciousness. So how do you change that consciousness? Not by running away from it, by doing that activity, but now dedicating all that activity to Krishna. Understanding that everything belongs to Krishna. Everything should be used in Krishna's service. This is, the essence of what Krishna is telling Arjuna. In the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see this this instruction and this whole consciousness playing out very nicely in two pastimes of Lord. The first pastime was with Raghunath Das. Raghunath Das came from a very wealthy family, Govardhan Majumdar. His father was unbelievably wealthy. He was the only son of his father. Raghunath Das, he somehow or the other learned about Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he wanted to join Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he would try to escape and go and live with Mahaprabhu. But his father would send the guards, and his men would grab him and bring him back. And this would go on all the time. Raghunath Das would try to escape. His father would catch him and bring him back home. But one day, Raghunath Das managed to escape. And at that point, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living in Shantipur. So Raghunath Das managed to go and meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And for 7 days, he associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And while he was with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had the following thoughts. Raghunath Das thought, how shall I be able to get free from the hands of the watchmen? How shall I be able to go with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Nilachal? So his idea was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would travel to Nilachal, Jagannath Puri, and he wanted to go with Lord. But he had to escape. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was omniscient, he could understand Raghunath Das's mind. The Lord therefore instructed him with the following reassuring words. Be patient and return home. Don't be a crazy fellow. By and by, you will be able to cross the ocean of nescience. You should not be a false renunciant. For the time being, enjoy the material world in a befitting way and do not become attached to it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, within your heart, you should keep yourself very faithful. But externally, you may behave like an ordinary man. Thus, Krishna will soon be very pleased and deliver you from the clutches of Maya. Such beautiful instructions. I'll repeat the last instruction. Within your heart, you should keep yourself very faithful. But externally, you may behave like Krishna will soon be very pleased and deliver you from the clutches of Maya. The purport on this verse is so nice. Let me see if I can bring it up. Just bear with me 1 minute. It's so nicely Prabhupada explains in the purport about one's internal mood. Okay, let me see. I got it here. Okay. So Prabhupada writes, and in this word, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uses the word Markata Vairagya. And the translation of Markat Vairagya means monkey renunciation. The word Markat Vairagya, indicating false renunciation, is very important in this verse. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in commenting on this word, points out that monkeys make an external show of renunciation by not accepting clothing and by living in the forest. In this way, they consider themselves renunciants, but actually are very busy enjoying sense gratification with dozens of female monkeys. Such renunciation is called Markat Vairagya, the renunciation of a monkey. So this is very interesting what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. If you go in cities, not so much in England, but in India, you'll see monkeys, many of them. And they all walk around naked. They walk in there naked, no clothing, and sometimes they just eat some fruit and berries. But these monkeys, they keep many, many female monkeys and enjoy with them. So in the same way, some person may accept the dress of a sannyas. You can use just a loincloth, sometimes even walk naked. And may just eat frugally. But inside, lots of turmoil. And we can see it in the world today. These Christian ministers, you go on the channel television, they just preaching about Jesus. But externally, they drive jets and they have fancy cars and big, opulent buildings and assets. And even the yogis in India, you go. Externally, they seem very renounced, but they smoke ganja and they have so many illicit relations. We have so many, the headlines are full of it. Every time in India, there's another scandal with another big guru. Ran off with his disciple, having an affair with his married disciples. This is all artificial monkey renunciation. And then Prabhupada says, one cannot be really renounced until one actually becomes disgusted with material activity and sees it as a stumbling block to spiritual advancement. Renunciation should not be falgu temporary, but should exist throughout one's life. Temporary renunciation or monkey renunciation is like the renunciation one feels at a cremation ground. When a man takes a dead body to the crematorium, he sometimes thinks, this is the final end of the body. Why am I working so hard day and night? Such sentiments naturally arise in the mind of any man who goes to a crematorial gut. However, as soon as he returns from the cremation ground, he again engages in material activity for sense enjoyment. This is called Shmasana Vairagya. This is very common. It's called crematorium renunciation. They go to the crematorium, they see the body being burnt, and suddenly they become overcome. We become overcome with the sense of renunciation. What's the use? One day I'm going to just be burnt in the cremation. This person I knew, what is the use of their house? What is the use of their assets? I'm the same like them. I'm going to be burnt. And we feel renounced in the crematorium. But as soon as we go, a little while after that, we forget it. Back to our same old attached activities. This is called Smarshana Vairagya. This is not very good. We should not do it. What is the real renunciation? This is explained. In order to render service to the Lord, one may accept necessary things. If one lives in this way, he may actually become renounced. So what Prabhupada said, one stands a better chance of becoming renounced if one uses everything one has in the service of the Lord. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Jnana Asu vairagyam janachayat ahaitukam. That means that simply by engaging devotional detachment automatically come, simply by the purification of engaging in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada goes on to explain very nicely. You can read this purport. This very nice instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 16, verse 238. There's also a very similar pastime with Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 7th chapter of the Madhya Leela. Similar circumstances, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling to South India. And while he was in South India, Mahaprabhu lived in a house of a Brahmana, a very pious Brahmana, householder, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would take his prasad there. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to leave and carry on his journey. And before Mahaprabhu left, the Brahmana met Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the Brahmana, I'm reading now from chapter 7, text 126 onwards. The Brahmana begged Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "My dear Lord, kindly show me favor and let me go with you. I can no longer tolerate the waves of misery caused by materialistic life." So he's saying, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I'm fed up with family life. It is just a wave after wave of misery. I want to come with you. I'll travel with you. And what does Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? Anyone know? Because we discussed this before. What does Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say?
He said, stay at home and Jare dekho tyare kaho Krishna Upadesh.
Yes. Thank you. Someone else wanted to say something?
Yes, Prabhu, I was going to say, yeah, do household duties and teach Krishna consciousness to others. You know, you be by example, you can teach.
Okay. Thank you, Nitai Mata. I will read to you what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Don't speak like that again. Better to remain at home and chant the holy name of Krishna always." And this is what you just said, Nitai Mata. Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, everyone becomes spiritual master. Stay in your position. Don't have to give up being a housewife. Don't have to give up being a father. Don't have to give up anything. You meet many people simply. You read Bhagavad Gita. You read Srimad Bhagavatam. You understand what these books say. And you tell your friends, your family, and everyone you know. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further advised the Brahmana Kurma. If you follow this instruction, your materialistic life at home will not obstruct your spiritual advancement. Indeed, if you follow these regulative principles, we will again meet here, or rather, you will never lose my company. What a wonderful instruction. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you act like this, I will always be with you. You will never lose my company. So the Brahmana was thinking, I have to go physically with the Lord. The Lord is saying, no, you stay, you chant Hare Krishna, you preach to everyone, and I will be with you. There's two ways of being with the spiritual master. One can be with the spiritual master through his vapu, his physical presence, or one can be with the spiritual master through his instructions. Living by the instructions of the spiritual master, the Lord, one lives with the Lord. So I'll stop here. I'm going to now take instruction from my Sankirtan leader, Divyanand Prabhu. We have all tried to make a commitment to Srila Prabhupada, a offering to Srila Prabhupada. You all know what that offering is. 25,000 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. We do 400. So we've tried and we've worked hard. We've done 226. Ultimately, whether we achieve our goal or not, it's not up to us. Our duty is to try. And to try to please the Guru, to try to follow the instruction of the Guru, and that will be our success. But still we have to try our best. So Divyanam Prabhu, he always tells me he has so much of regard for the Chad members, such sincere, dedicated devotees who by constantly, every day, hearing the message of Bhagavad Gita, hearing the instructions of the Lord, are very dedicated. So he said, many of y'all have been inviting your friends and families to the presentation being done by the children. He wants you all to please carry on doing that. Every day this week, there are presentations already scheduled. And we will post the details of those presentations by the children every day on the chat group. But Divyanand Prabhu asked me to make one more request of you. He said, some of y'all or many of y'all have been inviting your families and friends to these presentations. And your friends and families come. But some of the other, they are, for whatever reason, they're not being inclined. And we feel that if you join them, when you invite them, you join them on the presentation and they say, oh, Jyoti invited me, she's here. Oh, Nitai Mata invited me, she's also here. Oh, Bharat Prabhu, he invited me, he's here. Then they'll feel more inspired. And then one more thing you need to do. After the presentation, you call them. I'm so happy you made the time, you came to the presentation, you encourage these children. They are doing a great, great service for humanity. You encourage them. I just wanted to know what were your thoughts on what they presented. And try to see what's their mood and see if you can encourage them. We never say force. Everything is voluntary and spontaneous. Encourage them to take Srimad Bhagavatam. And as far as we're concerned, after we have taken all these steps, all of this is not very easy. I do appreciate. It requires us to come out of our comfort zone. Even to invite somebody, we have to come out of our comfort zone. To come and sit with them with the presentation, we have to sacrifice some of our time. To call them after the presentation, we may have to again come out of our comfort zone. All of this, it takes effort, it takes courage. It makes us come out of where we may ordinarily not want to be. But Krishna sees that. Krishna sees that endeavor. And as we have been reading in these verses, Krishna notices. And Krishna definitely says, he notices one who takes a risk for him. He notices one who comes out of the comfort zone for him. He notices them much more. And we attract his mercy. We attract the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And when we attract that mercy of the Lord and his pure devotee, then spiritually, we are going to be successful. Otherwise, we are such a tiny particle as a spirit soul. We are such a tiny particle. By our own, we have no scope. We have no scope to come out of material entanglement. We've been here for so many millions of lifetimes and years. But by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, this will become possible. So we have one more week we are trying. We need all of you to push. Give us your momentum, give us your mercy, give us your energy, give the encouragement, and try to please Srila Prabhupada, try to please Srila Vyasadeva, try to please the previous acharyas, and that's where we will find our success in spiritual life. Thank you. I'll stop here, and I'll take any questions or comments that anyone may have. Or reflections. Do you go to bed taking away anything you've heard today? Anyone? I'd like to hear you share something. Nitai Mata, you wanted to say something? You're on mute. Okay, it seems like there's no comments or no questions or reflections today. Is it okay what was said?
Yes, Prabhuji. It is always enlightening, Prabhuji. I think my takeaway is like Chaitanya Prabhu said, you be in your material world, but keep faith within yourself. So that's what I've taken from what you said today, Prabhuji, that you have to do your duties, but you keep faith within yourself, and you come out different, but within yourself you have your trust and your faith. But that led to another question, Prabhuji, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Prabhuji, today I went to my friend's house where they were having a Ganesh Puja. I've been going every single day. It's really nice of them to invite us. And this is the first time, Prabhuji, that I was sitting in the Ganesh Puja. We were doing the bhajans, and from my heart inside, I was talking Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, because I knew I had to finish my mala, right? Now, am I being disrespectful to Ganesh Prabhu? Because I should really be focused in where I am in the moment. I mean, I did all the bhajans, I was concentrating, but deep inside, Prabhuji, I was saying Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And it was just constant. And I don't want, am I being disrespectful to Ganeshji? Or I'm it just puts all these questions in your mind, right, Prabhuji? Am I doing the right thing? Now I have full faith in what I'm doing, but I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, Prabhuji.
That is a very nice mood. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami lists 64 items that constitute devotional service. The first 10 he lists are the positive injunctions, then he lists the negative prohibitions, and then he lists other aspects. And one of the principles he lists there is to not be disrespectful to the demigods. Now, we all know that Ganeshji, he also has a special place in the Vaishnav's life. He's been given the benediction because he's done a great seva. He was the scribe. Every time Vyasadeva would speak, Ganesh was there and he was the scribe. So he did very nice service. And then also he got this benediction that first respects will be given to him before any yagya.
Yeah.
So we can think about all the wonderful qualities of Ganesh, and we can offer our mental respects, and then we can carry on with our japamala. And Ganesh will be so pleased with us. Even if we didn't offer him our respects, he knows we are worshipping Krishna, we are chanting Krishna's name, and him being a great devotee of the Lord, he will probably appreciate your mentality, your mood, more than others who are with veneration are worshipping, but they're thinking, Ganeshji, can you give me this? Ganeshji, can you ensure that? Can you make sure that I become prosperous? I am worshipping you. I won't forget you today. That is not really the mood. So yes, all respect to Ganesh, but at the same time, we do our swadharma, which is chanting Krishna, and none of the demigods who are in the right consciousness would ever get offended by that. So
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So there are a few comments I see. Let's see some words. Sorry, this one.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have a similar question.
Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
I've always enjoyed to bhajans and things like that. Ever since I was a child, I've been brought up that way. So I have lots of CDs with bhajans, things like, obviously they're not all under Krishna's. But now the more and more I'm getting into Krishna consciousness, I have a similar question. Should I be listening to the bhajans, or should I just be listening to the Krishna bhajans? I'm in a dilemma similar to the previous Mataji.
Okay, thank you for your nice question, Mataji. The instructions or our acharyas, our great spiritual teachers, and even our shastras have given a very clear answer to your question. And that clear answer is that when one worships Krishna, simply by worshipping Krishna and pleasing Krishna, all of the demigods are actually becoming pleased. They become automatically pleased and satisfied. And the Bhagavatam saying, just like pouring water at the root of the tree, all the branches, all the twigs, all the leaves, they are automatically nourished. You don't have to go pour water on the leaf, on the twig, or the branch. If you pour on the root, they're all nourished. They're all satisfied. They all flourish. So in the same way, Bhagavatam is very clear. Simply by satisfying Krishna, simply by pleasing Krishna, all success is achieved. Everyone is pleased. So we should have no doubts. We should focus our full energy and full attention towards pleasing Krishna. And at the same time, a devotee also never forgets Krishna's servants and Krishna's devotees. So we are never disrespectful to the demigods. We always appreciate their superior position, but we are confident in our hearts that by pleasing Krishna, they will be pleased, they will be happy, and we do not need to endeavor to please them separately. That is the Vaishnava Siddhanta, and we should have full confidence in that. Does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, it's just like when you obviously when you brought up differently, you brought up like you worship Ganeshji, you worship Shivaji, it depends on your upbringing. So that's how I was brought up. And we were always into bhajans and things like that. So I've been brought up with listening to bhajans, singing bhajans. So I have lots of them and I love them because I was brought up. So I really, really enjoy listening to them, rather than listening to this, Bollywood songs and things like. Even as a child, I always wanted to listen to bhajans, so that's how I brought up. But I'm getting more and more into Krishna consciousness. So then, my main focus is Krishna, but then I have all these CDs as well. Sometimes when I'm working, I'm putting them on and listening to them. And then I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm questioning myself.
Okay, yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily bad, but eventually we'll get to the mood of asking ourselves before we do anything. By doing this, I now like to hear. right? Now I'd like to listen to some bhajan, some kirtan. What would give most pleasure to Krishna? Will Krishna, what will open up my bhakti to Krishna more? Will it be listening to some CD glorifying some devata? Will it be listening to something glorifying Krishna? Then you will have your answer automatically. In the beginning, maybe there's some doubt because we've not awakened our spontaneous love for Krishna still. So we'll have some inclination towards our own likes and dislikes through our own previous conditioning. But as we advance and as our focus becomes more and more, not is what is more pleasing to our ear, but what is more pleasing to Krishna, then the answer will come automatically.
So is that not bhakti then when you sing bhajans and things like that? Does that not come under the bhakti?
So when you are singing those bhajans, are you doing it for your pleasure or for Krishna's pleasure?
Probably my pleasure, I would say, yeah. So
yeah, so bhakti means doing it for Krishna's pleasure.
Krishna, yeah, yes.
As Krishna likes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we can think like that.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. There is one comment here, direct message. I'm not sure who it is, but thank you. It's a very nice comment. But Krishna conscious devotees worship Lord Ganesh as an elevated devotee of Lord Vishnu who removes obstacles on the path of devotional service. Absolutely correct. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidhaya Kumbha Dvanve Pranama Samaye Sa Gana Dirajaha Vignan Vihatum Alam Asya Jagat Trayasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The first held by Ganesh upon the pair of tumuli protruding from his elephant head in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all the obstacles on the path of the progress of the three worlds. Yes, that's a translation given. It's a wonderful verse. You can read it up from Brahma Samhita, and you can worship and think of Lord Ganesh in that mood. Krishnavani Mataji, thank you. Devi Mataji, thank you so much for reminding us that being in Krishna consciousness is the most important thing. And then again, another comment. Brahma Samhita verse that mentions Ganesh. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, whose lotus feet are always held by Ganesh upon the pair of tumuli protruding from his elephant head in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all the obstacles on the path of progress of the three worlds. Beautiful verse, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Lord Ganesh is asking for mercy, taking the Lord's feet on his tumuli. So what will he do with that power? He'll destroy the obstacles on the path of progress of the Lord's devotees. Very nice. Hema Mataji says we need Vaishnav mercy to take shelter of Krishna. The same way the demigods are great Vaishnavas, so we need their mercy to take shelter of Krishna. Is that correct understanding? Yes, they are devotees. Not all of the demigods are pure devotees. Some of them are mixed devotees. We certainly respect them, but we do not, as Vaishnavas, always go looking for mercy for them in particular. We take the mercy of other pure Vaishnavas, the spiritual master, but certainly we respect them. They are devotees of the Lord. They are serving the Lord, and we respect them. We do pray to them sometimes for removing certain obstacles or clearing our path. That's the mood. But we do not necessarily go and take shelter of them to clear. We take shelter of Krishna all the time. But yes, Hema Mataji, we do what you've said, but not out of our way. We don't go out of our way to do that. All right, any other questions or comments? Premila Mataji, did you want to say something or add anything?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for sharing that information about watering the roots of the tree. So we do not need to go to the leaves and the twigs and all that. But I also wanted to follow up on the reflection of the previous Mataji that I was brought up in a traditional Hindu home as well. And at this special time of Lord Ganesh, I sort of automatically went to make my offerings to him, although I am a Krishna's devotee very much so. And I was saying his mantra, and I was automatically went into the Hare Krishna mantra afterwards. You know, I'm so used to chanting the Hare Krishna mantra that although I thought to myself, I would say the Lord Ganesh mantra about 3 times. After one time, I just went into the Hare Krishna, and I thought to my mind afterwards, I am so in tune with Lord Krishna. So, you know, I find with love and devotion, even if I was brought up in a traditional way, I am so drawn to Lord Krishna now that nothing can take me away from that. So just sharing on Mataji's reflection, you know, that's how it starts, you know, when you're brought up in a traditional home and you're torn between, you know, the demigods and Krishna. But I think with time and with love and with knowledge, we get there. Thank you.
That's such a nice comment and reflection, Mataji. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's very nice. Very nice. Hare Krishna. All right, devotees, I think it's 8:49. It's a Sunday. I'm sure many of you want to go to bed early. Thank you very much for your attendance and your wonderful participation and your questions. We again pray and ask for your support and in whatever way you can in this last week of Bhadra Purnima to help and at least pray that we can fulfill our commitment for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. We'll end with Vaishnava Pranams. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.